high-impact life. So chapter 9 is called Just Trust God. I think you've probably gleaned so far from all of these lessons that is probably the most critical principle in this book is trusting God, finding his purpose for your life. There's a lot of talk about having purpose, finding purpose. God has a purpose for your life. And that's so great to know. You don't have to invent it. You don't have to figure it out on your own or create it. You were born with it. You were born with a purpose. God already had this amazing purpose for you. And it's our job to discover what that is. So let's talk about the questions that I have for developing your game plan. Number one, in this chapter, I love this chapter because I share the mission trip that I went on to Haiti with some of my athletes. Why do you think Christians in Haiti were able to surrender themselves to God and trust him when they had so little? How can it be freeing to put ourselves in God's hands rather than striving to control our lives on our own? I won't spoil anything. I'll let you read the chapter and hear about that experience, the experience I had, the experience that my athletes had in Haiti. But it really brought home the fact that we fill up as human beings, and especially as citizens in the greatest nation on the planet, as Americans, we are so blessed. We have so many, even the poorest amongst us still have more than many third world countries. When I went to Haiti, I had never seen poverty like that. I had never seen people who slept on dirt floors, sometimes just on the dirt out in the open, sometimes in a hut with 15 other people in a room or a house that was the size of a closet. No running water, no bathrooms, no sometimes no clean water, food for days, no way to escape their circumstances. They had every reason to be hopeless. And yet the people that I experienced and I was around in Haiti who knew God, who loved Jesus, worshiped him with such joy. And I realized that as Americans, we fill our lives with stuff, with material things, with all the comforts that we take for granted, with the ability to chase our dreams, with freedom, that we get to enjoy the security and safety, that we get to enjoy the health that we get to enjoy. And those things are amazing and they're wonderful and are blessings. But a lot of times we get so filled up with that we feel like we don't need God. Even if we acknowledge him, we don't really need him. And the people I saw in Haiti needed everything. And God was the only thing they had. And that was enough for them. And so how can we get to a place, not that we have to surrender all of our worldly possessions, but how can we get to a place where God is enough? What is it that we need to eliminate? How can we fully put our faith and our trust in God to meet all of our needs, physically, spiritually, emotionally, financially, in every way? How can we trust God to meet our needs? That's such a different way to live. Number two, in John 15:5, Jesus says, apart from me, you can do nothing. Have you seen this play out in your own life? If so, how? What do you think it means to rely on Jesus? And I'm getting pretty deep here. But, of course we can do things without Jesus, without acknowledging him, without gathering strength from him. We could try to do everything on our own. At some point, though, that runs out. And quite honestly, my goal in life is to not do anything apart from him. If I'm doing something with my life and God is not in it, he doesn't approve of it or isn't part of it or hasn't told me to do it, doesn't honor him, even the small things. I love that about my husband. My husband is the most strictly obedient man that I know to the voice of God. He prays about everything, where he parks, when he eats, what he eats. He prays it. And maybe that sounds crazy to some people, but it is amazing to watch the life that he lives because he seeks God's voice and direction on everything he does. And maybe it sounds like a pain, but it's such a blessed life, and it's such a protected and rewarded life. And I have to admit, I don't live up to that standard every single moment of every day, but I certainly strive to. And I certainly want the things that I do with my day, my life, to honor God. And I don't want to do anything apart from what Jesus has shown me to do with my life. So really, really great test for everything. Like, is God part of this? Did he tell me to do this? If Jesus was standing right here, in the flesh, would I make this decision? Would I do this? How would I treat this person? If can I take God into this situation with me? And would he be honored by the decisions I'm making? Really, really amazing way to live, amazingly fulfilling way to live, and blessed way to live. Number 3, if you haven't made a commitment to God, is that something you would consider? What might be holding you back? Think of someone you could talk to who might be able to encourage you. If you are following God's path, what difference has that made in your life? Are there more areas you need to surrender to him? So I'm being very transparent with my trust in God in this segment. And if that makes you uncomfortable, I don't mean to make you feel uncomfortable. I do want you to know what's available to every human being. I think I may have mentioned this in an earlier, certainly in the book, but maybe in an earlier lesson, that when I first really started pursuing God with my whole heart, I thought maybe I wasn't special enough. I thought, the deep relationship stuff, that's for super spiritual people who have it all together and are super connected somehow, have some hotline to heaven. And my realization was that relationship, that deep, abiding love relationship with God, is intended for every single human being. Everyone who is ever born has access to that because of what Jesus did on the cross. And if you haven't, maybe you know the whole story, maybe you've gone to church your whole life or called yourself a believer, or you say you're a person of faith or a Christian. I definitely am not here to condemn or judge or preach at you or say you have to do something. But I am going to say you have an open invitation to know more. You have an open invitation to receive love, unconditional love and forgiveness and grace and mercy that we all desperately, desperately need. And I can tell you from experience, I've looked for it in every other place besides Jesus, and I haven't found it. And so for me, he's the answer. And if you want to know more, I mentioned this in an earlier class, if you don't have a Bible and you want one, email me and I will send you one for free. I'm going to give you my number. If you want to speak personally and just ask for more information, or say, maybe you're ready to make a full commitment of your life to God, or maybe you're like, I don't know what that means. Call me. Literally call me. 405-706-3185. I'm going to say it again. 405-706-3185. That is my cell phone. If you call me and say, hey, you talked about this, I'm not familiar with it, I don't know what that looks like or what that would require from me, and I just want to know more, call me. If you do have a relationship with God, but you're saying, I feel like there's more, call me about that too. I love more than anything to help people process and talk through and figure those things out for themselves with nothing but love and hope. And I will meet you right where you are, and glad to help you and pour some hope and encouragement into your life and help you know the right decision to make for your own life. Number 4, what are some ways you can find fulfillment through being part of God's bigger purpose? List a few things you think God might be calling you to do that can have a positive impact on the world. That's the beauty of this, is when you really do commit your life to God, it's so much bigger. Your life and your impact is so far beyond anything that you could ask or imagine on your own. I know that's true for my life. And the crazy thing is, when I gave my life to God, I wrestled with this, and I actually had family members who told me, "Oh, you've just flushed your life down the toilet. You've just, you've said goodbye to all your dreams, and you're never going to be successful." And I just refused to believe that. I refused anything besides what I knew God was telling me. And I realized that with God, with committing my life to God, that my impact was going to be far beyond anything that I could do on my own. So I hope this has been encouraging to you. And if it's all crazy and weird and new to you, that's okay too. But I'd love for you, if you feel compelled, call me. Text me, call me. I'd love to talk to you.